Hey folks, wanted to do a video series on um, no rec manual engagements. So a lot of you might have seen me talk about this, and I did an attack disc training recently that I hadn't set up for too well in advance, and I don't think I demonstrated the concepts too well in it. So I figured I'd just take a step back and do a short little video series showcasing an engagement from beginning to end without using the rec manual and using the attack disk that's in this solution solver tool here, which I've posted the link to this. The link is the download is available on subsim.com. This tool has the historical attack disk as well as this reverse side slide rule. So I will use these two disks in conjunction with Wolfpack to demonstrate the concepts of basically plotting the targets, not plotting, but determining the target's course and speed parameters, as well as different maneuvers as far as positioning goes, getting all that data and positioning your boat such that you can take the target without having to even look at the rec manual. And really, the inspiration for this is, and to those of you who aren't aware, the historical Kriegstagebücher, so KTBs, those are the war diaries that were kept by each individual boat on each individual patrol. Those are out there for review. Not all of them, obviously, for the entire war, but a lot of them and a lot of prominent skippers ones are on there. I can post the link to that in the description for these YouTube videos. But all the procedures that I'm demonstrating in these videos were done historically. As some of you know, I run the Wolfpack BDU campaign. Got that started over the summer last year, and as part of that, I'm always trying to think of ways to enhance the immersion and sort of the historical focus. And so, as part of that, I went back and read some of those KTBs to try to get a little more clarity as far as historical procedures are concerned and target behavior and things like that. And so doing that sort of confirmed what I had already sort of known, but then also kind of fleshed out my knowledge a little bit of the historical procedures as they related to data gathering and positioning, etc. And so the spirit of it is really working with imperfect information. So we're blessed with a recognition manual in the game that has perfect information. As long as you can identify the ship, you can get a perfect target length, you can get a perfect target mast height, and with just a little bit of work, you can find your target data with very little effort at all, right? So that the fact that these procedures are historical in this video, as well as B, to provide people a little more of a challenge. That's why I decided to do a video series on no recognition manual targeting. The historical procedures really allowed for the fact that that these guys couldn't always identify their targets. With the exception of maybe a capital ship or maybe Liberty ships, things that were well documented or that were produced in mass by the Allies, like Liberty ships. Those would be readily identifiable, but your average merchant ship very well might not have been. And so when these guys sighted something on the horizon, oftentimes it was just a smoke cloud or just the mast tips of a ship. And so while we don't have that type of thing modeled in the game, the procedures in here would allow you to be successful even in simulations like SH5, which only present to you a smoke cloud or mast tips. And so the concepts in this video really apply across the board to U-boat sims or World War II subsims in general. So to do this and to demonstrate the concepts, I'm gonna keep it on easy, just so that it's the easiest way to demonstrate the concepts in here. I do demonstrate, if you look on my YouTube channel, I've got plenty of videos where I'm taking on the convoy in hard to demonstrate what an approach on hard might look like. But for this, because of all the moving pieces with the attack disc and everything like that, I'll keep it on easy. And so let's go ahead and launch the game. Hopefully we get a pretty decent spawn here. If not, then I will at any rate, we'll divvy this up into multiple videos. So they're all going to be demonstrating the concepts, but then also breaking it up such that you can go back to any individual video and look at that the contents of that individual piece of the engagement. Figure it might be easier that way. A lot of my previous videos were just one long video that captured everything, and a lot of times the information might have gotten lost in the shuffle. So we'll stick to this way. So obviously the first thing, we're going to try to locate the target, and if it's in sight, good, we can proceed. Otherwise we'll have to do the standard, diving, and there it is right there. Okay, so we've sighted the target. The very first thing to do is to put your stern on the target. Alright, so it's almost there. So what we're going to do is we're going to whip the UZO around, and we're going to put our stern on the target. Okay. And the reason why we're doing this will become evident pretty soon here. What we're going to do is we want to estimate an initial angle on bow for this target. So by putting stern on, historically this was done because typically you'd have just the mast tips or a smoke cloud visible. So putting stern on or bow on would allow you to see the direction of movement, of the way the bearing was moving. So in our case, we can obviously see that target is moving from right to left because of the readily visible angle on bow. Alright? But let's just pretend we couldn't. So the first step to do is, now that we've got our course, which is 181, we're going to go into the attack disc and we're going to set our course to 181 like so. Okay? So we've got that done. Now the next thing to do is to note the relative bearing, which is about 177. Alright, and we're going to set 177 in the attack disc. So we take our bearing arm and go 177 right there. Alright, so we got that done. Now we're going to estimate the angle on bow. We need to do it quickly because he's fading from view. So let's estimate that initially at, let's just say 70 left. Alright, so 70 left. To do this, we go in here and we set the target disc to 70 left. And left corresponds to the red numbers here. So we'll set 70 against this bearing line right here, and we'll say, let's actually just move it up to 250. Alright, target course of 250. That's our estimate. So now the next step to do is to match that course. We're going to turn to 250 and match his course. We're steering a parallel course at this time. I am going to move in just ever so slightly so we don't completely lose sight of him. Part of the good thing about putting him on your 180 is that you open the range. I like to, on a clear day, start a plot of the target based on 9,000 meters. 9,000 meters in Wolfpack corresponds to be about a hazy target, looking at it through the binos of the UZO, where the target is hazy such that the funnel, or that target in general, is just barely visible. That's 9,000 meters. I'm not going to do that plotting, I don't think, in this video itself. I've got a video on my YouTube channel that, there's 250, video on my YouTube channel that outlines that procedure, and so I won't go through that in this one. But suffice it to say, that's out there. So you can see we've lost sight of the target a little bit. I'm going to turn about 20 degrees in so that we regain visual on him. So I'll turn into 270. Okay. Now we're just gonna. Now we're gonna watch. We're gonna watch him. So when he reappears again, be right around here somewhere. So he'll come into view again, and our goal at this first juncture here is to get a constant bearing. The historical KTBs in German, of course, referred to this procedure as Ausdampfen. This particular procedure we're doing now is called Ausdampfen, so that would be speed to essentially match speed. So as soon as we get him back in view again, we will proceed with this procedure. I need to turn in just a little more. And then as soon as we get him in view again, I'm going to bring us back to 250, just so that we think we're steering a parallel course. The advantage of matching speed like this is that once you lock that constant bearing in, you are able to use that information later once you get a more accurate course estimate, meaning you get a more accurate angle on bow estimate, and then you're able to adjust that initial speed estimate and correct it. And I'll demonstrate what I mean by that in the kind of the second phase of this. But holy moly, let's see if we can get eyes onto this guy again. As soon as we do that, we will match course. Yeah, having him, there he is right there. So having him hazy like this is actually right there. If you can see that target in the video, that target right there is actually he's about at 9,000 meters right there. So I could, if I wanted to, and this is what I do in my historical plotting videos, I would plot that right there, right then and there. I'd mark my own position, and then plot out 9,000 meters at that true bearing, and then and go from there. But I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna do that in this video. I'm going to I'll leave it to you to look at that other video to do that. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bump us down to dead slow. It's likely that target is not going the same speed I am at half speed. So I'm going to bump down to dead slow as I close him, and then once he gets a little more visible, I'm going to match course again. What I mean more visible, I mean I want to ideally be able to see a mast clearly. Our initial AOB estimate was probably pretty inaccurate because the target was pretty blurry. But again, we're gonna true that up at the end. So the course of 250 that I estimated was probably not entirely accurate, and I'm guessing it's right there. I'm guessing that he's actually going away from us slightly. So we might have to revise that estimate. a little bit, but we'll get a little closer and we'll see if we can get one. Yeah, it's hard to tell, but I bet you anything he's probably on the other side of 90. I bet you he's maybe 110, angle on bob 110. So we can do the conversion again with the attack disc just for demonstration. We can say our course is, you can see, is 318. The relative bearing is 45. So we set 318 here and 45 degrees here, and we think the is left 110, I believe I said. So maybe, or maybe 290. Let's call it 290. So let's say the target's course is 290. Okay, so we'll go to 290. At this point, we can do that. So we'll turn to 290, and that's the course we think we've matched his course, just based on the initial AOB estimate. So once we do that, perfect. Okay, 290. It's gonna put him right about there we go. Yep. Okay. So then, all right. So now what we do at this point, we've got an initial AOB estimate, right? We've somewhat thought we've kind of matched his course. So now all it remains to do at this point is to adjust our own speed, and I would, put his bearing, his bearing is going to be what it is. You're on a parallel course right now, or so you think, right? So you need to adjust your own speed such that that bearing stops changing. So what I usually do is I use a mast, and I'll use that aft mast right there, and you can clearly see it's moving aft. So I'm going to go down, and actually I might do this exercise through the attack periscope just because I don't have a crew. But what I'll do is I'll go 10 slower. Let's look at it through the attack scope. Easiest. Hopefully I can get a clear enough picture. Yeah, I should be able to do it here. Let's watch through the attack scope here. You would ideally have a crew, and you'd be having the crew tell you when your speed stabilized, but you want to adjust your own speed on this course such that the bearing doesn't change over a couple minutes. In the meantime, what I'll do is set our course of 290. You always want your own course set opposite the white triangle here. That's very important. So we'll do that, and then we'll watch the speed, and when it stops changing, we'll go back up and take a look and watch the bearing change some more. The goal here is to try to completely suppress any bearing change. That's at that point the enemy's speed is said in German is said to be ausgedampft, or more or less suppressed or matched. So that's what that means. You find this in almost every KTB that deals with a target being sighted. You see this almost always as one of the first steps that was done. Fahrt ausgedampft. Okay, so then we're going to go up here. We'll take a look here. We're at about 6.5 knots. So let's take a look. Again, we're watching the mast, watching the movement of the mast. It is still moving aft ever so slightly. Yep, still is. Yep. Okay, so we're gonna actually hit 10 slower again. You're just ratcheting your speed down until you get that constant bearing. And likely what you would do if you really wanted to, which is probably recommended, is doing that plotting exercise after you've done this. So you do the Ausdampfen, and then you would do your plotting And then those two answers, speed answers, should check out with one another. All right, so 5.8. Let's go up a check. Okay, watch. Yeah, I know. It's getting pretty close. You see, I put it on the mast, and if anything, just watch. It's also good to watch that if you're doing it through the attack bear scope, it's good to watch the true bearing counter at the bottom, so that you know that the bearing isn't drifting at all. To make it seem like you've got bearing drift when there really is none. It's just your boat yawing. So keep an eye on that as well. You can see this right here is actually pretty close. That aft mast right there is not moving out from under the vertical line of my scope. So that's, I think, close enough where I can say that I've matched speed. Normally, I would do this over at least a few minutes just to watch it like this to get it exact. But for purposes of the video, I think this is probably enough. And if anything, you might even be actually gaining on us a little bit. Let's just watch and see here. Try to keep it as still as you can. Just ever so slight yaw there, but don't let that bother you. It's just the boat yawing a little bit. Actually, that's pretty close. So the next thing we do, we don't move the scope at all. Just keep it exactly where it is. This is very important. Don't move the scope. Come here, flick the AP on, flick it off again. That registers the bearing here. You're going to want to keep this static. All right, so the next thing we do, I would even just note the bearing down. So there's a few pieces of information we need to note. First is our course, which again is 290. So let's go into the writing tool in the map and just not own course 290. Okay, and then for next we'll note the bearing. The constant bearing is 74.1. Get it as exact as you can. 74.1. So we'll go in here and we'll write bearing 74.1. Okay. All right. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to drop down and get our own speed that corresponded to that constant bearing, 5.6 knots. Okay, so 5.6 knots. We will note own speed 5.6. Okay, so now we have those. That was at the original Ausdampfen maneuver. That was our information that we got. We know we were steering what we thought was a parallel course at this bearing, etc. So from these values, we can actually derive the angle on bow. So the angle on bow we thought was actually so if you take 90 minus 74 and then add it to 90, that's what we thought the angle on bow was. So if I take, we can convert that. We can say 90 minus 74.1, which is going to give me help my math here. Let's see, that's 15.9, right? I believe that's right. 5, 10, 15.9. Yep, so then 15.9 plus 90 is going to give me 105.9 or 106, right? 105.9. 105.9 is the AOB, okay? So that's the AOB there. We didn't need to do it that way. Kind of silly me. I guess I should have done it with the attack disc. That's why I have it there. So to get the AOB, which we'll need, you simply we plunk in the values, right? So 290 at 70. The bearing was 74.1. So we do 74. Whoops, 290 and 74.1 there. Gives me a and his course was also 290. We have to do that. 106. All right, let's just call it 106. All right, so 106 is the angle on bow, so we need to note that as well, and I'll show you why. AOB 106. Okay, so with this information, we can do the Ausdampfen calculation now, or ideally you would wait until you have a better course value. But just to demonstrate what this is, I'll show you how to do it on the reverse side of the attack disc. So the first thing, we bring the attack disc up, we flip the side. Okay, your logarithmic slide rule. This is the degree. This is a sine scale. These are degrees here on the outer ring. These two here are distance rings on the outside here of this ring. This is a speed ring right here in the middle, and then this inner one is the time disc. Okay, so we can do a lot of stuff with this, and we will do a lot of stuff with this in this video, in these series of videos, but for now, we can compute the speed based on constant bearing right now by doing this, if his course estimate was correct, which it's not going to be, but it's an initial estimate. So what we do is we take our own speed of 5.6 and the AOB of 106, and we align those. So 5.6, we find it here, right there. And 106 is actually 74, right? It's on the other side of 90. This only goes up to 90, so you have to subtract from 90. Whoops. We have to subtract from 90 in order to get that value. So so it is actually 74. Let's just call it 74. All right. So 5.6 we align with 74. 5.6 of 74. Okay. And because we thought we were steering a parallel course, the bearing is also 74. So therefore the speed would be 5.6. If we were steering a parallel course, we would have matched course and speed. That is not the case, okay? We think it is, but it's not. So the speed would also be 5.6. That's our best estimate right now. Once we get later and we true that course up, we can see what the actual speed will be. But we have this set now to be 5.6 aligned with this 74 right here. Once we get a better angle on bow, all we're going to do is we're just going to rotate this outer ring here and align the true angle on bow with this marker right here. And then we will read off at the bearing of 74 what the actual speed is. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next. So once we go into the video here, I will go up here and see what things are looking like. Make sure he hasn't completely disappeared on us. He shouldn't have, but let's take a look. Okay, so yeah, all right, so you can see I'm actually not on a parallel course, I can tell already, because these guys are coming into view. So the next step, which will be the next video here, I'm just going to simply stop the video and then restart it again. This finishes the section on the initial sighting and the Ausdampfen, the initial Ausdampfen. This next video is going to cover the assuming my computer doesn't crash on me here. The next video is going to cover the actual getting ahead of the target and diving and figuring the rest of this out. So bear with me, I'll be right back.